Magandang araw, Malacanang Presscon. Tugon ng Pilipinas sa nararanasang global oil shock, kinilala ng Asian Development Bank. Ayon sa isang ulat na inilabas ng ADB nitong April 29, naging mabilis at malawak ang aksyon ng pamahalaan sa kabila ng mga hinaharap nating pagsubok dala ng pagtaas ng presyo ng langis. Bunga ng pamumuno ni Pangulong Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr., isa ang Pilipinas sa 44 na bansa sa Asia-Pacific region ang pinakaaktibong kumilos kontra sa epekto ng gulo sa Middle East. Patuloy na pinapatibay ng Uplift Framework ang coordinated response ng gobyerno para protektahan ang mamamayang Pilipino at patatagin ang ekonomiya ng bansa. Kabilang sa mga naging tagumpay ng pamahalaan, ang pagpapatupad ng iba't ibang policy measures upang ibsan ang pasanin ng mga Pilipino gaya ng rollout ng fuel subsidies, tulong pinansyal sa vulnerable sectors, dagdag suporta sa transport sector, excess tax cut sa mga produktong LPG at kerosene, price monitoring sa petroleum products, mahigpit na pagbabantay sa ating fuel supply, pagpapatupad ng energy saving measures, at pag-fast track sa renewable energy initiatives. Maliban dito, kabilang din ang Pilipinas sa mga bansang may dagdag na supply side initiatives gaya ng paghahanap ng alternatibong pagkukunan ng langis. Pababain ang presyo ng bigas. Iyan ang utos ni Pangulong Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. kay Agriculture Secretary Francisco Tiu Laurel Jr. Ngayong umaga ay pinangunahan ni Pangulong Marcos Jr. ang ika-6 na uplift meeting sa Malacanang. Kabilang sa mga tinalakay sa nasabing pagpupulong ang mga hakbang ng pamahalaan upang tiyakin na sapat ang ating supply ng langis at pondo ng pamahalaan para tuloy-tuloy lang ang serbisyo ng gobyerno sa mamamayang Pilipino at bantayan ang presyo ng mga bilihin. Huwag hayaang may mga abuso sa sitwasyon ngayong may krisis sa Middle East. Iniutos ng Pangulo na aksyonan ang mga hoarder at nagsasagawa ng profiteering. At kapag napatunayan na may sabwatan para tumaas ang presyo ng bigas, hindi mag-aatubili ang gobyernong kasuhan ang mga sangkot at ang maaaring pagpapataw ng price cap. Sa ngayon, ang utos ng Pangulo kay Secretary Tiu Laurel Jr. ay gawin ang lahat ng paraan para ibaba ang presyo ng bigas. Sa direktiba ng Pangulo, patuloy na pinagtitibay ng Uplift Framework ang coordinated response ng pamahalaan upang protektahan ang kapakanan ng sambayanan at patatagin ang ekonomiya ng bansa. Matapos ang uplift meeting, nakakatakda ring pangunahan ni Pangulong Marcos Jr. ang 9th Economy and Development Council meeting mamayang hapon. Layunin ng nasabing pagpupulong na himayin ang mga posibleng solusyon ng pamahalaan sa mga kasalukuyang hamon ng bansa. Kabilang sa mga tatalakayin sa nasabing meeting ang pagpapaunlad sa transportation system sa tulong ng mas maayos na railway network. Maliban dito, nakatakda ring talakayin ang pagpapatatag sa kapasidad ng Philippine Coast Guard upang panatilihin ang seguridad at kaayusan sa ating mga nasasakupang karagatan. Bilang pangwakas, nakatakda namang tanggapin ni Pangulong Marcos Jr. sa isang courtesy call sa Malacanang mamayang hapon si Japan Defense Minister Shinjiro Koizumi. Naparito ang Defense Minister upang saksihan ang paglahok ng Japan Self-Defense Forces sa Exercise Balikatan 41-2026 ng Pilipinas at Estados Unidos. Ang pagbisita ni Defense Minister Koizumi sa Pilipinas ay sumisimbolo sa magandang ugnayan ng dalawang bansa. Inaasahan namang magiging protektibo at makabuluhan ang nakatakdang paghaharap ng Pangulo at ni Defense Minister Koizumi lalo na pagdating sa mga usapin ng bilateral defense relations sa pagitan ng Japan at Pilipinas. Gobyernong kumikilos at walang patid na serbisyo, maaasahan ng Pilipino sa administrasyon ni Pangulong Marcos Jr. Ngayong araw ay makakasama natin si Anti-Red Tape Authority Secretary Ernesto Perez para bigyan tayo ng detalye kung paano pinapabilis at pinapagaan ng gobyerno ang mga serbisyo nito sa mamamayang Pilipino. Magandang araw po, Secretary Perez.
Magandang araw, PCO USEC Claire Castro. Magandang araw at maraming salamat Malacanang Press Corps sa pagkakataong ito na may bahagi ng Anti-Red Tape Authority ang ginagawa ng ahensya as we celebrate the 2026 Ease of Doing Month this May. Ano ba ibig sabihin ng theme na we say towards a more productive Pilipinas? Because our theme for this month's celebration is achieving results through transparency and accountability towards a more productive Pilipinas. We often try to answer these questions sa pamamagitan ng having economic targets, foreign investments, figures in balance sheets, broadsheets. But we at Anti-Red Tape Authority, we look at it in another lens, and that is towards more efficient service. Because the time less spent for availing of government services is more time to devote for our work, for our family. A more productive Bagong Pilipinas is measured in something far more precious than numbers, your time. It is about building a government that matches the speed, dedication, and excellence of the Filipino worker. Efficiency is not simply an administrative goal. It is a matter of human dignity. The ease of doing business is central to building a more productive nation. Papasalamat po tayo kay Presidente Marcos sa pag-sign ng Proclamation number 818 last year, declaring the month of May as the Ease of Doing Business month. So this year, we are celebrating it for the second time. And this year, we mark the observance with more meaningful activities that unite government offices, citizens, stakeholders, and partner institutions in a coordinated national effort. This year, we mark the observance with meaningful activities such as Ease of Doing Business Fair, stakeholders consultations, coordinated effort, a whole month activity across the country. Supposing yesterday, we had a simultaneous opening of the EODB month. We had one in the central office in Baguio led by Mayor Benjamin Magalong, in Batangas led by Governor Vilma Santos, which marked the opening ceremonies for this year's observance. And today, we're having our media conference. Today also, we had our bloodletting activity at the office in collaboration with the Centilla Juris Fraternity in UP at Rizal Medical Center. May 5 also, we're having a orientation workshop. So this is what we're doing. On Thursday, we will have our business ready reform where an official from the World Bank will join us at the GSIS. This is something very important for the World Bank because we will also be presenting to the people the result of the business ready report recently. On Sunday, we also have our Art Takbo Fun Run, so please join us. May 12 to 13, EODB Fair in Davao City. May 13 to 14, EODB Fair in Tarlac. May 14, we'll have an advisory council meeting chaired by the DTI Secretary. May 16, EODB Fair in Pagadian City. May 17, EODB Fair in San Fernando, La Union. And of course, May 18, EODB Fair in Calaca, Batangas with Governor Vilma Santos. On May 22, we will celebrate our ARTA anniversary. May 25, Philippine Good Regulator Principles Recognitions and Awards, 25 to 26 dito po sa Iloilo. At 28, May 20, Grand EODB Fair in Cebu. These activities showcase practical outcomes of sustained coordination across government offices, demonstrating concrete gains from collaborative undertakings involving government offices, stakeholders, and partner institutions nationwide. And this year also, as the Philippines chairs the ASEAN, ARTA will have its share by hosting the Good Regulatory Practice Network, and with the guidance and approval of the Executive Secretary, we will hold it on October 22 to 26 this year, involving the 10 ASEAN member countries, together with the support from the United Kingdom government, New Zealand, and the Paris-based OECD, or Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. ARTA is also serving as the lead negotiator for the Transparency and Good Regulatory Practices chapters with the European Union Free Trade Agreement. These initiatives are really undertaken in close collaboration with the OECD, UK, and New Zealand. The GRPN brings together all ASEAN member states, etc. And this recognizes the role that ARTA is playing. Of course, we walk our talk. We do not only conduct orientations with our stakeholders, government agencies, we also conduct inspections across the country involving local government units, government agencies, where regulations are properly implemented, ensuring that these regulations do not cause undue regulatory burden to the public. We also check on their compliances with the Citizens Charter, and we have this compliance matrix and look for their action plans and evaluate their action plans in the process. Citizen feedback. We are taking a lead role in terms of the citizen feedback by exposing service gaps and guiding agencies to act faster and smarter. The electronic complaint management system integrated in the eGov Super App of the DICT help organize how complaints are received, tracked, and processed. Through this connection, users can submit their issues, follow their status, and receive updates without need to go through multiple choices or website. It simplifies the process and helps reduce efficient time. Efficient complaints resolution, a total of 2,021 were received from September 2025 to April 2026, with 1,556 of these cases closed. The 77% closure rate shows that ARTA is ready to attend to complaints lodged digitally, partnered with prompt response and prioritization. We have also developed a virtual assistant we call Tala, Talk to Tala. This is locally developed, and she speaks 17 dialects. She responds in English, Tagalog, in 17 dialects. And she is available 24/7. We have launched this yesterday in Tacloban. There will be 20 kiosks distributed in Region 8. And this coming May 22, when we celebrate our 8th anniversary, we will also launch Tala with the eGov kiosk of the DICT together with the Quezon City government. This makes easier for people to lodge their complaints to us. Now, we have already inputted yung mga Citizens Charter dito kay Tala, and once you ask anything at all about the Citizens Charter of any agency or local government unit, Tala can respond to you in real time. So, that ends our presentation. We welcome the opportunity again for being at your service. Thank you so much, Yusek Claire.
Mga katanungan po. Sa Medinilla, Business Mirror.
Good afternoon, sir. Mag-update lang po sana ako kung meron na po kayang timeline yung ARTA at saka yung other members ng Committee on Optimizing the Executive Branch sa implementation po ng Government Optimization Act, yung napasa po last August.
We had our last meeting last April 30. This was chaired by the Office of the Executive Secretary, co-chaired by the DBM Secretary. Member po ang ARTA, kasama ang Civil Service Commission at DepDep. So we agreed and approved the guidelines for release, and agencies are given until August 29 this year to submit their optimization plan.
Bale, may mga agencies na po kaya na nakapag-submit ng OSSP po nila?
Sa pagkakalam ko, wala pa po dahil hindi pa po natin na-release yung guidelines officially.
Kailan na lang po natin target na ma-release po yung guidelines?
Ang deadline po for the submission will be on August 29 per the guidelines.
Thank you po, sir.
Salamat po.
Next question po, Mads Moratilio, Net 25.
Hi, sir. Sir, meron na po bang latest list ng ARTA ng most complained agencies?
Yes, ma'am. In fact, during the Senate hearing, we submitted to the Senate yung 10 most complained. Ito pong from January to December, as of December 31, we have the figures. The most complained, of course, yung FDA. Pero nag-improve po. Latest, as of March 31, bumaba na po ang FDA from number 1 to number 3. Ang number 1 most complained na po yung LTO. Pero karamihan po dito that cases that were filed to us, almost more than 90% are resolved, meaning closed. Dahil po ang ARTA, pag nakakatangka po kami ng complaint, nire-refer natin kaagad dito sa Committee on Anti-Red Tape. At alam po niyo na kapag alam nila that ARTA is already onboarded, even before the hearing is set by ARTA, most of the time, nire-resolve na po nila ito at hindi na po ito na-elevate into a formal complaint. Yeah, we will make it available po
Yes.
later.
Sir, sorry, yung nature ng complaint lang po. For example, sir, yung top 5 agencies po, anong mga reklamo?
Yung delay po sa acting on the filed application, yun po, tapos imposing additional requirements, violation of the Citizen Charter. Yan po ang karamihan ng complaints natin na re-receive.
Next question po, Kat Domingo, ABS-CBN.
Sir, yung LTO, saan po pinaka nanggaling yung spike niya? Sa Metro Manila po ba? Sa provinces, sa regions? Ano po yung rank niya before siya umakyat sa number 1?
Noong 2025, number 3 po siya dahil number 1 yung FDA. Ito pong latest March 2026, naging most complaint po ang LTO at bumaba yung FDA sa number 3. Siguro, if I may explain, maganda po ating engagement with the Food and Drug Administration sa pamumuno po ni Director General Teston. In fact, last 2 weeks, nagkaroon po ng, for the first time ever, Joint Congressional ARTA FDA Stakeholders Forum. Doon po siguro nakikita na dahil sa continuous engagement natin with the government agency, nababawasan na po yung complaints against FDA. So siguro we are also looking forward towards more engagement with the LTO and those other complaint agencies para po mabawasan na rin ang complaints at ang message po natin dito is we continuously engage with these government agencies. We consider them as partners, hindi po natin sila kalaban. Ang ating po objective ay hindi sila para makasuhan, kundi mapaganda po ang serbisyo para sa tao.
Sir, saan po concentrated yung bulk ng complaint against LTO?
Po sa Metro Manila po.
Okay, sir, ano po yung usual complaints? Is it just the ease of doing business or are there also corrupt practices reported?
Ang ARTA mandato po is about implementation of the ease of doing business law. About kung corruption po, nasa ombudsman po ang mandato.
Yes, sir, pero usually po kasi fixers yung problema before sa LTO. Was that also raised before the ARTA?
Yes, in fact, we had 3 convictions last year for violations of the ease of doing business law, particularly on fixer. At 3 po yun sa LTO.
Sir, last from my end, ano po yung magiging liability ng LTO under the ARTA law for having the most number of complaints or ano po yung deadline for resolving these complaints?
Wala naman pong liability except that yung under the ARTA law, yung head of agency is responsible for implementing the law. Only yung responsible official or employee will be held personally liable.
Next question po, Harley Valbuena, ABC 13.
Hi, sir. Sir, in general, how's our red tape situation in the country right now? Is it still prevalent or rampant, or did we see a significant decrease over the years?
Significant decrease po. In fact, even our President, Ferdinand Marcos, in his message to ARTA in our accomplishment report, recognized the big role that ARTA is doing towards improving service efficiency. At ito pong ating ginagawa using digitalization, streamline and digitalization process so that we make it easier for people to have access to government service, conducting regular orientations, briefing, conducting on-the-spot and regular inspections. This put government agencies really on their toe to make sure that they comply with the law, particularly on the requirement of the Citizens Charter po.
Next question po, Tristan Nodalo, Newswatch Plus.
Hi, sir.
Ayun.
Ambassadors and foreign investors usually cite red tape as reason to choose other countries. Sa time po ba ni Pangulong Marcos, what reforms have been implemented to ensure itong ease of doing business talaga ay wouldn't turn off investors?
Malaking bagay po. In fact, sa aking pong pagpupulong with ambassadors and the various chambers of commerce, they're really upbeat about the Philippines, recognizing that we are so blessed with resources, talented, skillful people, and under the direction of our President na for government services to be streamlined and digitalized, we are really in continuous improvement of our government services. In fact, meron po tayong na-develop, yun si TALA, the Artificial Intelligence, and eventually madidevelop po ito into an ARTA portal so that citizens will have real-time access to progress of, in fact, government projects, and this dashboard will be made available to the public. This is how serious the government towards implementing the policy on transparency and accountability of government's personnel or officials.
But for foreign investors, sir, ano yung specifically nirereklamo nila whenever they meet you sa ARTA, and na-address na po ba yun?
Well, in last engagement with the foreign chambers and ambassadors, ang usual complaint nila ngayon po yung sa BIR, no? At ito po in action na rin natin at under the new commissioner, masyado pong proactive yung ating commissioner at because of our continuous engagement with them, na-action na naman nila kaagad yung mga complaint na nare-receive nila that is coursed through ARTA. And in fact, ito pong Webes, ipipresent nga po ng ARTA yung ating Ease of Doing Business Reform Guidebook, no? As a result of the annual Business Ready Report being conducted by World Bank. And na-mention ko nga po kanina, meron pong darating na top World Bank official from Washington. And this puts really our country, no, at radar of the World Bank, giving us that importance, no?
Sir, last na lang po on my end. Some investors daw po are still complaining na may mga LGU na hindi sinusunod ang ease of doing business law kung may sarili pa ring set ng regulations ang LGU. Kaya yung ibang investors ayaw na daw po sa provinces magtayo. How would you respond to that?
Well, meron pong Asian Development Bank study, no, na ang pinakamaganda po para ma-implement natin itong mga gandang program ng gobyerno is the one-stop shop. And we're starting this with the provincial one-stop shop. Yung issue for the LGUs ay na-address po natin by requiring, no, all LGUs to set up and operationalize an electronic business one-stop shop where the permitting process should be done full online. In fact, kahapon po, nag-usap kami ni SEC Chairman Lim, no, Attorney Francis Lim, kasi yung starting a business medyo challenge po sa atin dito. But this year, you will really see a marked improvement because we are working closely with the SEC, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig, para it will make it easier for people to set up their businesses here. At atin din pong implement yung Central Business Portal at atin din po ilo-launch this Thursday yung Business Registry Forum. Kasi po yung nagpapatagal talaga, no, especially involving foreign investors, yung securing secondary licenses. Ito po ma-address natin once ma-fully implement natin yung Business Registry Forum. Sana po makadalo kayo para ma-explain natin mabuti yung objective natin, why we're having these initiatives. These are really designed towards attracting more investors that will drive our economy forward, providing more business and livelihood opportunities for our people.
Last question po. Ivan Mayrina, GMA 7.
Sa mga most complained agencies, what happens next? For example, LTO. Do you tell LTO that you have 3 months to shape up or something like that? Anong ginagawa ng ARTA? Or sinong agency ang responsible for these most complained agencies?
As I mentioned earlier, doon pong most complained agencies, halimbawa pag 600 complaints, mga more than 500 of these are already resolved or closed. Inactionan po naman natin nila kagad ito because ARTA, once it receives a complaint, ni-refer po natin dito sa Committee on Anti-Red Tape of the agency. Halimbawa, yung LTO, meron din silang Committee on Anti-Red Tape. At pag alam po nila na ARTA is already onboarded at alam nila na mabilis po ang umaksyon ng ARTA dahil our resolution rate by our legal department is almost 99%, ni-resolve po nila kagad ito. Kahit po sila most complained, most of these cases, in fact, more than 90% are already closed. Kaya nga, bumaba yung figures. I hope I can share with you the figures. Yung figures for as of December 2025, bumaba po pagdating ng March 31, 2026. This is because agencies immediately act on these complaints once referred by ARTA.
But sir, being most complained tells the agency that their processes may need a lot of improvement na kaya nga nangyayari itong mga reklamong to dahil may mali.
To be honest about it, yeah, I agree with you, but sometimes it also depends on the volume. Kasi yung, halimbawa, SSS, FD, there are just thousands of transactions going or being processed by the agencies. This is not defending the agencies, but considering the volume of transactions, applications that they receive, we cannot really avoid but they be the subject of a complaint. Kaya po, FDA, LTO, yun po mga favorite because of the volume of clients that they have. Thank you.
Yun na po yung huling tanong. Thank you po, Sec.
Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Secretary Ernesto Perez. At maaari na po akong tumanggap na inyong mga katanungan.
Unang tanong po, Tristan Nodalo, Newswatch Plus.
Hi, Yusek. Good afternoon. Si Vice President Sara Duterte po ay nasa Netherlands na ngayon at natanong po siya on her preparedness sa 2028 presidential bid. So she said, "We can only pray that there will be presidential elections in 2028 and that they will be honest, orderly, and peaceful." So I just want to ask, how does the administration interpret these remarks at this stage, and is it casting doubt on the credibility and certainty of the 2028 polls?
Kitang-kita nyo naman na habang sumasagot ang Vice Presidente ay nangingiti siya. Siguro kahit siya ay natatawa sa kanyang sariling sagot. Unang-una po, nakikita rin natin ang kasabikan ng Vice Presidente na pag-usapan ng halalan sa 2028. Samantalang ang Pangulo ay abala sa pag-aayos ng anumang epekto ng krisis sa Middle East. Katatapos lamang po ng Uplift Committee meeting at mamaya po ay magkakaroon pa ng EDC meeting para maibsan ang epekto nito sa ating mga kababayan. At ang Pangulo naman, ang Vice Presidente naman ay isang abogado. Parang ito ba ay like father, like daughter? Alam naman natin na umamin ang dating Pangulong Duterte na siya ay eksperto sa paggawa ng intriga at pagplanta ng ebidensya. So, ang mga ganitong sagot mula kay Vice Presidente ay alam nating intriga lamang, mga kwentong walang basihan. At sana ma-review niya ulit bilang abogado kung ano ba ang nilalaman ng konstitusyon para masagot niya na rin ang sarili niyang salita.
Yusek, on another topic, si Duterte supporter and former TV personality Jay Sonsa has been released after posting bail dahil nga po sa kaso niya linking to false information about the President's health. Siguro po yung pagkaka-aresto niya, anong klaseng mensahe po ang ipinaparating nito pagdating sa mga nagpapakalat ng maling impormasyon? And should the public expect more cases to be filed? May mga maa-aresto pa po bang individual kaugnay ng maling impormasyon?
Sa mga gumagawa ng krimen, hindi kayo sasantuhin ng batas. Huhusgahan kayo ng katotohanan. Huwag pagkakitaan ng fake news. Katotohanan lamang ang inyong ibigay at hindi po kayo nakakatulong sa ekonomiya.
Next question po, Maricel Halili, TV5.
Good afternoon, Yusek. Yusek, may we have your reaction about the statement of Senator Amy Marcos when asked about her relationship with the president? She said it's non-existent. Your comment.
Yes. Immediately after the Uplift Committee meeting, I approached the President and asked about this comment or statement of his sister, Senator Amy Marcos. And he said, yes, they haven't spoken for almost 3 years. She has not been attending family gatherings, family events. So yun po ang sagot ng Pangulo.
Sorry ma'am, usyoso pa ako. So what was the reason bakit umabot ng ganong katagal yung hindi raw pag-uusap of the President and Senator Amy?
Tanungin niyo po siguro si Senator Amy dyan dahil sa Pangulo po ay wala po siyang masamang anumang damdamin sa kanyang nakakatandang kapatid.
Last na lang ma'am, but can you please describe the reaction of the President? Like, how does he look when you asked about his relationship with his sister?
Paano ko ba i-describe yung kanyang reaksyon? Bago siya kasi sumagot, ay pinag-isipan niya talaga. Sa aking paningin, sa kanyang body language, ay disappointed siya sa kanyang nadidinig ng mga salita mula sa kanyang kapatid.
Thank you, Yusek.
Next question po, Alvin Baltasar, Radyo Pilipinas.
Yusek, total nabanggit na si Senador Amy Marcos. Ang sabi ni Senador Marcos, dismayado daw siya sa ginagawang importation ng bansa ng repolyo tsaka ng ibang mga gulay. At nakakahiya daw ito kasi sobra-sobra naman daw yung local production ng ating mga magsasaka. At ano pong reaksyon ng Malacanang dito, pati yung pagkakasabi niya na palitan na yung ibig sabihin ng DA, gawin na raw Department of Angkat.
Nakausap po mismo natin si Secretary Kiko Laurel Jr. Kanina lamang, Kiko Chu Laurel Jr. Kasama natin siya sa Uplift Committee meeting at nabanggit po natin yung issue na yan. At ang sinabi po niya ay wala pong katotohanan ang sinasabi ni Senator Amy Marcos. Hindi po daw nag-aangkat ang DA ng repolyo.
So paano kaya, saan kaya nanggaling yun?
Yun nga po, hindi po ba dapat tanungin niyo muna si Senator Amy sa bawat salita niya, saan ba nanggagaling ang kanyang mga binabanggit na mga ganitong klaseng mga kwento na wala namang pinanggagalingan.
So yung sinabi ni Senator Amy, that's fake news.
As far as Secretary Chu Laurel Jr. is concerned, yes, it's fake news.
Salamat po, Yusek.
Next question po, Sam Medinilla, Business Mirror.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Kanina po, ma'am, na-mention nila na nag-issue po ng directive si President Marcos sa DA para pababain po yung presyo ng bigas. Na-mention po ba ang DA na concrete measures on how to implement that directive from the President?
Yun po ang gagawin ng paraan. Legal na pamamaraan, tamang proseso, ang gagawin po ni Secretary Chu Laurel Jr. Dahil yan po ang kabilin-bilinan dahil according to Secretary Chu Laurel Jr. ay hindi po tayo kulang sa supply ng bigas. Sapat po ang supply ng bigas at hindi kinakailangan na tumaas ang presyo nito.
So wala pong na-mention kung mag-i-import, mag-adjust ng tariff?
Hindi po pinag-usapan niya. Ang sinabi lamang po ng Pangulo, dapat magawa ng paraan na bumaba ang presyo ng bigas at kung mayroong mga hoarder at nagsasagawa ng mga profiteering, hindi mag-aatubili ang gobyerno na kasuhan sila.
Tapos ma'am, ask ko lang kung discuss rin po ba kanina dun sa Uplift Committee meeting regarding dun sa proposed na Uplift bill? kung meron na po bang additional details at saka kung may target date po ba yung executive branch to submit its version ng bill sa Congress po.
Meron na pag-usapan pero ibibigay ko na lamang po sa inyo pag finalize na.
Last na lang po, ma'am. Kanina po nag-report yung PSA na nag-accelerate po yung inflation to 7.2%. Napag-usapan po ba yun during dun sa cabinet meeting kanina? At saka kung ano pong measures yung gagawin ng government to address it?
Kanina po ay nag-report si Secretary Balisacan patungkol nga po dito sa inflation rate. At binanggit po niya na nagkakaroon po ng ganitong epekto dahil na rin po sa pagtaas ng presyo patungkol po sa logistics or transportation dahil na rin po sa pagtaas ng presyo ng diesel at gasolina. Ang kuryente rin po nagtaas din po dahil nga po humihina ang piso laban sa dolyar at tumataas din po ang presyo ng fertilizer. So nagkakaroon po ng domino effect ito pero according to Secretary Laurel Jr., may mga produkto naman tayo na hindi dapat tumataas ang presyo dahil sapat ang supply. Ang iba nga po ay oversupply pa.
May directive po ba si Pangulo to address the inflation?
Katulad po nito, ang sabi po ng Pangulo ay dapat na bumaba ang presyo ng bigas. Isa po ito sa dahilan kung bakit tumataas po ang inflation rate natin.
Thank you po.
Next question po ulit. Tristan Nodalo, Newswatch Plus.
Hi, Yusek. Pinulong po ni Pangulong Marcos yung key government agencies or cabinet secretaries yesterday on the ASEAN preparations. May specific directives po ba siya to ensure a successful hosting of the ASEAN? And siguro po, how can ordinary Filipinos appreciate or benefit from the country's hosting of the summit?
Okay, nagkaroon po kanina ng briefing at bukas magkakaroon din po ng briefing patungkol po dito. Bibigyan ko lang po kayo ng konting komento para dyan. Ang National Organizing Council po ay nasa final phase na po ng preparation para sa Philippine hosting of the 48th ASEAN Summit and related meetings. All strategic, operational, logistical, technical, and security preparations ay kompleto na po. At ang lahat ng systems are now undergoing final live testing and synchronization. At the government of the Philippines through the NOC and all participating agencies stands 100% ready to deliver a secure, seamless, and world-class ASEAN Summit. Alam naman po natin, ang kadalasan na pinag-uusapan po dito ay patungkol po sa political security, economy, at socio-cultural issues. At dahil po nagkaroon nga po ng hindi sinasadyang krisis sa Middle East, ay nagkaroon din po ng refocus ang agenda at maisasama na po sa discussion ang patungkol sa energy security and unified response para to lessen or to mitigate negative effects on individual member states ng sinasabing krisis dito sa Middle East.
Next question po, Maricel Halili, TV5.
Yusek, small details lang po. Meron na po ba tayong detalye kung nagpahayag na yung mga ASEAN members if they will attend, all leaders of ASEAN members?
Okay, siguro po mas maganda kung bukas po ito magkakaroon po kasi ng briefing tomorrow. So, pero sa ngayon po ay ina-expect po ng administrasyon na yung 3 pillars ay makakapunta, ang ASEAN Political Security Community, ang ASEAN Economic Community, at ang ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community. So sa ngayon po, yan po ang inaasahan ng ating pamahalaan. Pero bukas po ay magkakaroon pa ng mas detalyeng pagre-report.
And just to reiterate po, of course, meron pong na-experience na crisis sa Middle East. So ano po yung mga ginawa nating austerity measures in hosting ASEAN?
Sabi nga po ng Pangulo before, marami po tayong gagawin para po kahit papano ay makapagtipid tayo, pero ang obligasyon po natin ay nagagampanan pa rin po natin. Nagkaroon po ng creation ng virtual meeting room system, VMRS, pioneered here in Manila, para isa sa mga austerity measures It uses technology to guide ASEAN member states. So meron pong 683 meetings at 174 face-to-face and 173 on deck to use VMRs, VMRS in PICC. So 73 face-to-face meetings done already at ang 30 virtual meetings done na rin daw po at ang 580 more meetings will be expected.
Thank you, Sec.
Huling tanong at pahabol po. Ivan Marina, GMA7.
Ma'am, bukod po dun sa binanggit ninyo na according to Secretary Chu Laurel ay fake news tungkol sa pag-angkat ng repolyo ng bansa, nabanggit din po recently ni Senadora Amy Marcos at tungkol sa kalusugan ng Pangulo na nauna na niyong sinabi na fake news. Sinabi po kasi ni Senadora Amy, labas-masok daw sa ospital ang Pangulo. The PCO has strongly condemned fake news and fake news peddlers. Are you also issuing the same warning to Senator Amy for peddling this fake information?
Hindi po tayo nagbibigay ng anumang warning sa mga fake news peddlers. Ang sinasabi lamang po natin dito, kapag ka po nakita na kung anuman ang kinakalat na fake news, ang NBI po ay mandato na ito ay imbestigahan.
Ma'am, may iba ko. Doon naman sa meeting later ng Pangulo with the Japanese Defense Minister, what can the Philippines expect to gain following this meeting? And are there going to be any new defense agreements or perhaps resources to improve our defense posture capabilities?
Yan po ang pag-uusapan mamaya at kapag ka po natapos ng meeting, iuulat ko po sa inyo bukas.
Yun na pang huling tanong, Yusek.
Maraming salamat. Pangulong Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. pinangunahan ang pagbubukas ng CALAC Subsection 3 para gawing mas maginhawang biyahe. Kahapon, May 4, ay tumungo si Pangulong Marcos Jr. sa bayan ng General Trias, Cavite upang i-anunsyo ang pagbubukas ng 7.88 km road section ng Cavite-Laguna Expressway. Inaasahang mapapagaan ng nasabing subsection ang traffic congestion sa Governor's Drive Interchange at mapapaikli ang biyahe mula Binyan, Laguna hanggang General Trias, Cavite. Kung noon ay aabot sa 1 oras o higit pa ang biyahe, ngayon ay kaya na sa loob lamang ng 26 minutes. Sa Cavite pa rin, pinangunahan ni Pangulong Marcos Jr. ang rice rollout sa ilalim ng bawat barangay makikinabang program. Patuloy na isinusulong ng Pangulo ang direkta at agarang suporta ng national government sa mga lokal na pamahalaan sa pamamagitan ng maayos na paggamit ng Local Government Support Fund. Sa ilalim ng nasabing pondo, makakatanggap ng tig 10 kilong bigas ang mga pamilyang kabilang sa vulnerable sectors tuwing 2 buwan. Layunin ng programa na patatagin ang food supply ng mga pamilyang labis na nangangailangan. Maliban dito, patuloy din ang pagpapalakas sa mga lokal na komunidad sa tulong ng 202,000 pesos na pondo mula sa Social Civic Projects Fund na maaaring gamitin sa mga priority projects ng barangay gaya ng educational assistance ng mga mag-aaral. Aabot naman sa 2,300 residents ang dumalo sa nasabing aktibidad. At bago tayo magtapos, Pangulong Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. nagpalabas ng higit 43.18 billion pesos na pondo para sa tuloy-tuloy na suporta sa mga lubos na nangangailangan. Inilabas ng Department of Budget and Management sa pangunguna ni Acting Secretary Rolando Toledo ang pondo upang masiguro ang walang patid at agarang paghatid ng tulong pinansyal, suporta sa pagkain, pensyon at mga programang pangkabuhayan. Ipinadaan ang pondo sa iba't ibang programa ng DSWD sa pangunguna ni Secretary Rex Gatchalian. Sa 43.18 billion pesos na pondo, higit sa 36.8 billion pesos dito ay mapupunta sa Protective Services for Individuals and Families in Difficult Circumstances program. Tatanggap din ng higit 3.4 billion pesos ang supplementary feeding program na nagbibigay ng pagkain sa mga batang naka-enroll sa Child Development Centers at Supervised Neighborhood Place. Ang Social Pension for Indigent Senior Citizens naman ay makakatanggap ng mahigit 2 billion pesos para sa tuloy-tuloy na buwan ng pensyon ng mga senior citizens sa bansa. Bilang panghuli, makakakuha ng 810 million pesos ang Sustainable Livelihood Program bilang suporta sa vulnerable at marginalized sectors para sa pangmatagalang pagkukunan ng kabuhayan. At bago tayo magtapos, ito po ay para kay Sam, patungkol sa issue sa Boracay Bridge. Nakuha na po natin ang tugon ng DPWH. According to Secretary Vince Dizon, pina-finalize na ang kontrata para sa nasabing proyekto. Ang kinumit ng SMC, lahat ng issues and concerns ng lokal na pamahalaan at ng iba pang stakeholder ay pakikinggan at tutugunan. Walang maiiwanan, walang madedehado, lahat magbebenepisyo, turista, residente, manggagawa ng aklan. Yan po ay mula sa DPWH. At isang anunsyo po, Proclamation 1238 na pinirmahan po ni Acting Executive Secretary Ralph G. Recto. Idineklara ni Pangulong Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. na special non-working day sa Lapu-Lapu City at Municipality of Cordova, Province of Cebu mula May 6 hanggang May 8. May 6 hanggang May 8 para mabawasan ang traffic at masiguro ang kaligtasan ng mga participants ng ASEAN Summit na gaganapin sa Lapu-Lapu City at Municipality of Cordova. At lagi po natin tandaan, ang bagong Pilipino. Likas ang pagmamahal sa bayan. At dito na po nagtatapos ang ating press briefing. Magandang araw para sa bagong Pilipinas.